Well, many of Australia's landmarks were lit up in blue and white last night in solidarity with Israel. But at the same time, the New South Wales Police allowed an unauthorised anti-Israel pro-Hamas rally to go ahead despite no application being filed, despite the fact that Hamas is a terrorist group, and despite the fact that those present then chanted, "Gas the Jews." Jeremy Leibler is the president of the Zionist Federation of Australia, and he joins me from Melbourne now. Welcome to the program, Jeremy. What's your reaction to the rallies that we've seen in Sydney this week and that are planned for Melbourne tonight?
Well, it's terrifying, Sharri. There aren't really other words to describe it. I'm a second-generation Holocaust survivor. I come from a family of Holocaust survivors. I have aunties that were in Auschwitz, and I grew up very much under the shadow of the Holocaust. And the notion that I would have to explain to my children that there are people walking the streets of Sydney yelling, "Gas the Jews," is just incomprehensible.
And what do you think about the police here in New South Wales telling the Jewish community to stay home, not to go to the city, the heart of Sydney, and not to go to the Opera House, our national icon, instead of actually shutting down this protest?
Yeah, well, I think we need to actually understand and look at what sits behind that advice. And so on the one hand, I have no doubt that the police's intentions were well, perhaps to protect any Jewish members of the community that would be nearby, so to stay away. But that's not acceptable, because that's effectively blaming the victim. It's akin to saying to women, stay home, otherwise you'll be raped. And that would be completely unacceptable. So we need to ask ourselves, who are the enablers of this sort of behaviour? And Sharri, the enablers are spread all throughout society, frankly, both on the left and on the right. And one needs to only start looking at our universities to understand why this is normalised, because universities have normalised this sort of rhetoric without calling it out and calling it as unacceptable.
And we've got breaking news.
And if you just want a simple example...
No, go ahead, yep.
If you just want a simple example, look at the University of Sydney, where they sent out a letter to all of their students asking both Israeli and Palestinian students if they need support given events in Israel and Palestine, as if there is some sort of equal-footed war or dispute going on amongst two like-minded or differently minded countries, when in fact one side, a terrorist organisation, has perpetuated a mass atrocity on the other.
It's shocking, and University of Sydney has a very poor record on this.